Hi guys, Jared Johnson here with Day Traders FX. Nice to be with you. I wanted to welcome everybody to the 15-minute group chat. This is all for the 15-minute trade, and we're going to talk about just a couple of things here. I just want to keep everybody in the loop. This screen that I'm showing right here, for those of you that have the scanner course, this is the Forex scanner. If you don't have the scanner course, then you just have the 15-minute trade, which is this indicator on its own. If you don't have the scanner course and you want the scanner course, you were given the opportunity to get an upsell for this when you got the 15-minute trade course. So if you got it, great. If you didn't, I will post the link for the 15-minute, or sorry, for the scanner course just below this video. But what I wanted to show you is just all the 15-minute things that we have going on right now. We're on the 15-minute chart, and what the scanner will show us is all of these 15-minute situations. We know we're looking for 400 bars. We know we want to see, a little chunk of distance between price and the 200 moving average. This is what the scanner shows us. Again, the 15-minute trade will show us this right here. It's saying right now current bar count 136, sorry, current bar count's 91. The average on this one's 136, but we're still looking for that 400. This is just a random example here on the pound dollar, but if we go scan through all of the currency pairs, and remember on this one, you can show the 15-minute indicator. You can have it show all currency pairs. And that's another way to kind of do it. But I just want to specifically talk about what we see happening on 15-minute charts. You can see that we don't have a bunch of high bar counts yet, but here's things that we are looking at. Right, current bar counts, Aussie dollars 157, CAD yen's 155. Now these don't take very long. One thing that the scanner will show us is how many hours until we get to that bar count. So on some of these higher ones, like say 157 on the Aussie dollar, it's telling us there's another 60 hours till we get to that 400 bar count. 60 hours. Now remember, the currency market's open 24 hours a day, so a couple more days and we get to that higher bar count. But one thing that I am focused on a little tiny bit more is when we're looking for some of these bar counts right here, and we're seeing some of these things happen, and we say, hey, we don't have a 15-minute trade yet. There's two things that we can do. Number one, we can say, well, let's look at some of these that have, medium to upper bar counts, and do we have an opportunity to kind of continue on with the trend, right? Let's just take, for example, the CAD yen. Here's the CAD yen on the 15-minute chart. It's saying it's at 155. We have a good distance to go before we get to, that 400. And the distance isn't very big. It's only 13 pips. So if I go over here to the CAD yen and I say, okay, CAD yen, 15-minute chart here. Here's my bar count, right? Here's a little bit of, whoops, let's go right here. There's the bar count. So there's what we see. Not a super high bar count, 155 bars. And it's kind of struggling in this area, in this zone right here. And we say, well, there's not a lot of distance between price and the moving average. And we're only halfway to a bar count. We're actually less than halfway to the ideal bar count that we want to see. So what can we do here now? Well, we can look at the big picture and we can say, what's the CAD yen actually doing? What do we see the CAD yen doing? If I look at it, I look at it kind of like this, and I say, well, the CAD yen for at least the last, let's see here, for almost the last 20 years, the CAD yen on very extreme market conditions, 2008, and of course, coronavirus stuff, has just kind of banged against this low, but doesn't really go lower. So as I look at this and I say, okay, CAD yen is running into some trend lines. We've got some stuff right here, and it's starting to, make an attempt at some of this resistance right here, some of that resistance. So I look at that and I go, okay, well, it's probably going to struggle at this resistance a little bit, but there's probably a breakout coming. It doesn't go much lower than this. We don't have a lot of space between current price and 200 moving average on the 15-minute chart, and we have a 15-minute chart that tells us this could run for another 2 or 3 or 4 days before it finally breaks higher. And if that big picture is showing us that the CAD yen actually doesn't really go much lower than this, and it has a whole lot of distance to go higher, then I would look at this as probably an opportunity for us to say, hey, this could really go up here, right? It spends very little, very, very small amounts of time down here, and it could probably make quite an extensive run higher. So if it's going to make that big run higher, And I know that I'm only halfway to a 15-minute trade confirming that I'm probably ready for a little bit of trend trading with this, right? 15-minute chart isn't very extended. There's plenty more for this to go. So what we might want to do is say, well, can I see anything on a 5-minute, maybe go down to a little bit of a 5-minute chart. Here's just some things that we look at. Here's things that we talk about in our scanner group. I look at that 5-minute chart and I say, okay, I'm looking for this to continue moving away from the 200 moving average on the 15-minute chart. Continue moving away from that 200 moving average. Increase the distance between price and 200 moving average. Increase that bar count. All of that stuff. I'm looking for that. So if I go to a smaller time frame, I could say, well, maybe I'll just trade a little breakout right here. Maybe I can just trade a little breakout on this kind of a chart where I say, there's some pips. Maybe I can trade this back up into the high over here of about 82.20. And here we are trading around 81.97, 95. Maybe this breaks out and gives us 15 or 20 pips and or a lot more, right? If this breaks and can pick up a little tiny bit of momentum, this is probably going to go for 100 or 200 pips. But if we're just saying, hey, let's just trade it up into some of this resistance, maybe we make 15, 20, 30 pips on that little breakout, that little run there, because we know that it can continue to move away. It's not overbought at all. We know that the big picture is telling us that it's coming off lows and that it's probably going to continue higher, and that those are some of the trend trading opportunities that we can look for. So when you look at this 15-minute chart and you say, okay, here's some higher bar counts. Here are the things I want you guys to look for. I want you to look for, number one, big picture, right? What is the potential trend on the big picture? Is it coming off major highs or major lows? And does it have a lot of room to run? And in this case right here, we have a little bit of an uptrend. We're coming off major lows. Everything's looking really good. Long-term support, resistance, right? We want to look at bar count and how much more do we have to run, and we want to look at distance between price and moving average. So I want you guys to look at these things and say, okay, this is what I have to work with here. Big picture looks pretty bullish on CAD yen. Long-term support seems to be holding really well, and long-term resistance is a long way away. And then we've got distance between price and the moving average, not very high. Bar count's low, and the distance is pretty low, so that tells us this could continue moving on. If this breaks out, it could continue moving higher for a good chunk. That's a little bit to have a look at. I hope that's helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments about that, and we'll take it from there. Thanks, guys.